The movie Red Dawn would tell the story of a military invasion on the U.S. mainland. As the hostile invasion spreads across our nation, a ragtag group of high school kids decide to fight back. We'll take a closer look back at this 80s classic on the next Back to the Feature.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
When Red Dawn was released in August of 1984, it was a hit among teenagers. I myself was a senior in high school at the time, and others my age could easily relate to these characters because we all hoped we would react the same way in real life. Before we dive in, let's take a look at some of the cast. Leading the cast is Patrick Swayze, coming off The Outsiders just the year before. Playing his younger brother is Charlie Sheen in his first major film role and just a couple of years before starring in Platoon. The other notable members of the cast include C. Thomas Howell, Lea Thompson, and Jennifer Grey. On the adult side of things, there were a couple of heavy hitters in the cast. Harry Dean Stanton plays the father to Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen, while Powers Booth drops in, literally, as a U.S. fighter pilot that's been shot down. So let's dive into the movie. It's September and the beginning of a new school year in a small Colorado town. We first meet Patrick Swayze as Jed when he drops his younger brother Matt off at school. Matt and his classmates are sitting in history class as the teacher talks to them about how Genghis Khan invaded other countries. And yeah, in hindsight, this is a little too on the nose, but it's not something that we really caught while sitting in the theater opening weekend. The teacher is distracted when he sees a bunch of soldiers coming in on parachutes. The students all walk up to the windows to check it out. The teacher steps outside to see what's going on. That's a big mistake. The first soldier he approaches shoots him down and then sprays the classroom windows with lead. Some students are killed immediately and the rest haul ass. From this point, all hell breaks loose. Everyone tries to get to their cars. Some have better luck than others. And while they're trying to get out, old Jed is trying to get in. He's racing around to get Matt and whoever else he can grab. As they make their getaway, we see more parachutes coming in and the town has been completely overrun with soldiers. A lot of the unsuspecting townspeople are rounded up and held prisoner. Jed and the others he managed to rescue make it to a small gas station / store just outside town. It's ran by Mr. Morris, whose son Robert, played by C. Thomas Howell, was one of the lucky ones to make it out with Jed. Mr. Morris tells them to grab as much camping gear and food as they can. He also loads them up with guns and batteries and tells them to head to the mountains and stay there until he comes and gets them. And that's just the first 10 minutes of the movie. As the audience in the theater, we were hooked immediately. While they head for the mountains, we learn the invasion is a team-up of Russia, Cuba, and Nicaragua. The leader of this particular invasion group is Colonel Bella from Cuba. The mountain kids haven't even been hiding out that long, and already a couple of them are wanting to surrender. The main one wanting to surrender is the mayor's son, Daryl. Jed puts his foot down and says, "That ain't happening." So Daryl throws a hissy fit and tries to hit Jed, but gets knocked on his ass. Jed then gives them the "you're just a bunch of scared kids" speech to put an end to their mutiny. By October, they're getting the hang of being mountain men. After a successful deer hunt, Jed and Matt even talk Robert into drinking the blood of his first kill. He guzzles that shit like a vampire. As their food supply runs low, Jed, Matt, and Robert decide to sneak into town to get more supplies and see what's up. They find the road to town is filled with burned out tanks and crashed helicopters. Peering through binoculars, everything looks normal. You know, other than all the soldiers and tanks. They venture into town and see soldiers camped out everywhere. None of them seem to notice them as they're too busy burning books. So they go into the local diner to ask the cashier for the latest scoop. She tells them that the KGB is looking for them and that they've rounded up a lot of people and put them into what's called a re-education camp out at the old drive-in. That night, they find the drive-in is now surrounded by giant fences and watchtowers. Jed asks one of the prisoners to see if he can find his dad. The man returns with Jed and Matt's dad, who looks like he's been beaten up a bit. Harry Dean Stanton is only on screen for a brief moment, but he makes the most of it. It's a touching scene that leaves everyone crying, and ends when their dad screams out for them to seek vengeance for him.
Avenge me! Avenge me!
On their way back to the mountains, the trio stops off at a local farmhouse where the Masons live. Mr. Mason feeds them and explains that they're 40 miles behind enemy lines and tells them not to go into town anymore. Robert learns his dad has been killed, which sends him into a ball of tears. Mr. Mason tells them he has a couple of heirlooms that he wants to hide with them. Turns out the heirlooms are actually his 2 teenage daughters who escaped before the soldiers could rape them. He introduces Jed and Matt to Toni and Erica, played by Jennifer Grey and Lea Thompson. He gives them supplies and horses to travel on and sends them on their way. One day, a few soldiers drive up into the mountains where they stop at a scenic overlook to take pictures like normal tourists. What they don't know is that Jed and company are also there. One of the soldiers finds an arrow on the ground and gets a little too curious. When he looks over the edge, he spots Toni and goes after her. Danny shoots one soldier in the back with an arrow before he can grab Erica. The soldier crawls back up the hill with the arrow sticking out of his back, but Toni manages to get a hold of his gun and kill him. Robert takes out another soldier with a shotgun. Just a little payback for killing his dad. The last one standing is wounded and races back to the truck to radio for help. Jed catches up to him though and kills him before he can reach anyone. So now our teenage warriors have been to battle and came out victorious. Robert is no longer boo-hooing about his dad. He's now turned into a little Rambo. Colonel Bella isn't too happy about the Russian soldiers getting killed, so he meets with Mayor Bates, played by the always awesome Lane Smith, to discuss his son Daryl and the others that are missing. While out on patrol, Matt sees soldiers forcing some of the townspeople to dig graves for the dead Russians. They're then lined up in front of a firing squad as punishment for the rebels killing the soldiers. Matt watches as the men sing America the Beautiful in defiance. He then sees his dad in the line just as they are executed. Mayor Bates can only watch in horror while standing next to Colonel Bella. Back at camp, Jed tells the others the same thing that his dad told him. Don't ever cry again. Of course, Matt just keeps on crying. But not Robert though. He's a stone cold killer now. A tank pulls up to a gas station outside of town and Toni rolls up on her bicycle. One of the soldiers steals her bag and takes it down into the tank. As she runs away, the tank explodes, killing the thief. The other soldiers chase her but are shot down by Jed, Matt, and Robert. In a tit for tat, the soldiers line up more people on a mountain road to be shot. As they prepare to fire, the rebels come down from the mountain and kill them all. Now this is a big moment in the movie where they first make the declaration of Wolverines! In the theater, that moment got a lot of cheers. Everyone loves it when the bad guys get what's coming to them. Plus, raising your gun up and screaming the name of your school mascot was kind of badass. The Wolverines start taking out more soldiers and equipment. After each skirmish, they spray paint their names so that people know it's them. This just pisses Colonel Bella off even more because it makes him look bad to his superiors. Each victory makes the Wolverines take even bolder moves against the enemy. They take their attacks into town when Toni comes out of a corner store and a few minutes later it blows up. It's November and Erica is out on patrol. She comes across a crash site where she finds Lieutenant Colonel Tanner sleeping. Since he's an American pilot, she takes him back to camp. He gives them the Cliff Notes version of how the invasion happened. Omaha, Washington, and Kansas City all got nuked along with some missile silos in the Dakotas that left the U.S. split in two. Everything from the Rockies to the Mississippi River was now enemy territory and they're stuck right in the middle of it. Tanner joins the Wolverines on their next mission to take out an armored column. He gets to see their handiwork firsthand as they're successful yet again. It's now December and Tanner is laying out their attack plan to free the prisoners remaining at the drive-in. Of course, he first has to explain to them what a flank is and what grazing fire means. The mission is a success and they even manage to arm the prisoners with guns they stole. The next morning, as the enemy is licking their wounds, the Russian commander is mad as hell. It's Christmas time, so they sneak back to the Mason farm for a visit. Mr. Mason tells them that stories of their escapades have made it all the way back to the American side. It's January and time for some changes. They head out to the battlefield and watch as U.S. jets drop bombs on the enemy tanks. Tanner is planning on crossing back over to the American side and wants Jed and the others to join him. Unfortunately, their conversation is rudely interrupted by an enemy tank coming up behind them. However, the tank doesn't see them. It's just lining up to fire at the U.S. tank. They just happen to be hiding right in front of the boulder the tank is facing, but it puts them right in the line of fire as another tank pulls up nearby. Tanner jumps on top of the first tank and shoots inside hoping to kill the driver. Arturo follows him up onto the tank only to get himself killed, which makes him the first casualty from their group. They take out the second tank with an RPG, but Tanner is mortally wounded while still on top of the tank. He knows he's finished, so he drops a smoke bomb inside the tank so that the U.S. tank has a better chance of hitting it. Tanner's dead, so Jed pulls his team back just as Tanner and the tank are blown up by the U.S. tank. It's pretty quiet back at camp as they're feeling pretty defeated. Erica is taking it the hardest as she had started taking a liking to Tanner. It's February and the Russians have brought in a brutal new commander to deal with those pesky Wolverines. He puts on a TED Talk to get everyone on the same page. They will hunt down and kill every last Wolverine. The Russians go into the mountains to hunt them down, only to be ambushed. The Wolverines are not messing around at this point. When the shooting is over, they even go in and kill the wounded. Well, with the exception of one soldier that they keep alive to interrogate. The prisoner has a device that seems to be tracking a signal, and it points directly at Daryl. It turns out Daryl snuck into town to try and rescue his dad, but he got caught, and they forced him to swallow a tracker. As punishment for his betrayal, Jed lines up Daryl next to the prisoner for execution. Matt doesn't want any part of it, but Jed says it has to be done. He shoots the prisoner, but hesitates when it's Daryl's turn. It's all good though, because Robert has no problem shooting him. With their location compromised, they're now on the move to find a new hiding spot. Then we get a scene where Jed just sits there and bawls like a baby, doing the one thing his dad told him never to do again. Damn it, Jed! When Harry Dean Stanton tells you to do something, you better do it. They're out spying on an enemy convoy stopped on the side of a desert road. As the convoy leaves, they spot a couple of boxes of food that fell out of a truck. Toni makes her way down to the boxes once the coast is clear while the others watch from their hiding spots. She starts chowing down and waits for them to come join her. In the theater, my first thought was the food was going to be poisoned. They're busy filling their bellies when Russian helicopter gunships show up out of nowhere and open fire. Toni is wounded pretty bad, but Jed scoops her up as they all scatter. The rest make it to their horses and try to get to cover. Robert tries taking out one of the helicopters with an RPG, but dies trying to just stand there and shoot it out with one of the other gunships. Total dumbass. He could have at least got behind the rock first for cover. Jed finds cover for Toni and she knows she's dying. She wants Jed to shoot her so the Russians won't get her, but he couldn't shoot Daryl and he was an asshole, so he definitely can't shoot her. Instead, it's time to play the old live grenade under the dead body game. The helicopters land and they go hunting for any survivors. One of the soldiers finds Toni, and when he lifts her body up, the grenade goes off, killing him in the process. They hatch a plan for one final mission. Jed and Matt are going to go into town and stir things up a bit so that Danny and Erica can get away. Jed and Matt gear up to do their best Butch and Sundance impersonation. Their last hurrah involves them just running around blowing shit up and causing general mayhem. They get off to a good start, but eventually both Matt and Jed are wounded. At this point, Colonel Bella has lost his desire for the war, and when he spots Jed carrying his dying brother, he just lets them go. Jed makes it to a park bench and they both just sit there and die. We then see sometime later that Erica and Danny have made it across the mountains and over to the American side. They made it back to freedom. The end. This movie had the distinction of being the first movie released with the new PG-13 rating. The movie would have a lasting impact as it was referenced in the 2003 capture of Saddam Hussein. The operation was called Operation Red Dawn, with the two target sites being called Wolverine 1 and Wolverine 2. No sequels were ever made, but there was a remake in 2012 that featured Chris Hemsworth in the lead role of Jed. In this version, North Korea is to blame for the invasion. How many of you were in high school when Red Dawn came out? Did anyone sign up for the military after seeing it? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below to help grow this channel. I appreciate you taking time out of your day and hope you will come back for the next Back to the Feature.
Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.